Welcome back, troglodytes, to the Trogly's Guitar Show. Silver left me a comment on my latest video asking me to discuss my opinion regarding the company maybe going bankrupt within the next half of a year. I told him I'd read into it, and if I can add something constructive, I would do it. So if you haven't heard or read any of these other articles or videos, Gibson is potentially facing bankruptcy after 116 years in business. Now, if you read through this article, it basically lays the groundwork for why this is happening. Gibson is massively in debt. Personally, I think a lot of this is because they stopped focusing just on guitars and started to take over other brands. Just recently, they sold off a few of those, such as Baldwin, and instead of going to the NAMM show, they just went to like a consumer trade show to really beef up those other brands, probably to help go towards this debt. So Bill Lawrence was the CFO for Gibson, and he just recently left after 6 months on the job. The media is pretty much taking that and saying that is a very bad sign if somebody doesn't even want that job, because he could see the writing on the walls. So how it goes is Gibson owes $375 million in senior secured notes, as well as $145 million in bank loans that are due in July if they are not refinanced. If you're not sure what a senior secured note is it's basically debt that takes priority, as you can see here. And it's also backed by your borrower's assets. So if they're not able to refinance that, basically Gibson will be sold. So things aren't looking so good for Gibson right now. They have a very short amount of time to get things whipped back into shape, get refinanced, and win the trust of the lenders. And we're not talking bagels here. So what is my opinion on all of this? I think we could see the end of Gibson as it is today. I mean, I secretly find myself wanting someone else to own Gibson. My loyalties usually lie to like the 70s and 80s Les Pauls. Those are my favorite ones. But that doesn't mean Henry did not have any good ideas. There were a lot of very interesting guitars that came out in the Juskowitz era. However, I think we're due for a new era of Gibson. You have the Golden Era, then you have the Norlin Era, and now we're finally going to be able to say, through 2018, the Juskowitz Era. Now, as the history goes down, I don't think the Juskowitz Era will actually be a bad thing. It will be a thing in history books where it just kind of fell apart at the end. Now, if you don't know anything about Gibson history, Henry's pretty much been the head guy at Gibson since around 1986, give or take a year or two. They stepped in when Gibson was at a very similar time as it is today. They were facing bankruptcy, but they got it. They tried a few experimental models like the Custom Light and some other crazy super strat stuff that was just too late. But then Henry struck gold. It was the Les Paul Classic series that he introduced in 1989 and 1990 that really turned this company around. It was a really nice, almost 59-like Les Paul guitar that was at an affordable price range that people loved. This is why I think it would be a good thing for someone else to come and step in, because I think they'll do the exact same thing. They will send Gibson back to the basics, because that's kind of what they need right now. Now, does this necessarily mean Gibson is going to be bought out and made in China, overseas, all these other factories? I'm not so sure about that. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I'm sure there's some rich people that would like to buy the Gibson brand name and start making these super cheap. But if they start doing that, they're just going to completely devalue the brand. I really don't see somebody else buying this and making Gibsons super cheap. Gibsons are like the Ferrari of cars. They're meant to be high-end. They're meant to be expensive. Not everybody should be able to afford one. The Epiphone line exists for somebody who wants a Les Paul-shaped guitar but doesn't want to spend the premium price for one. Now, do I agree the current pricing structure might be a little bit too high? Yes. However, you still need to stay competitive in your pricing to the other companies. Gibson is just so out of reach for most people that they're not able to afford one, which means people aren't seeing these guitars as much as they used to, and this makes it harder to influence younger people to want a Gibson. Modern day music anymore really doesn't have a lot of electric guitar in it, and it's unfortunate, but that seems to be the trend for now. Whether Gibson can get refinanced and continues being under the ownership of Henry, it really doesn't matter to me. I think it would be a good thing for Gibson to be sold. That's pretty much all I have to say on this topic. I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and opinions in the comment section below, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.